Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, very dear students. As you know that the Cambridge examinations are round the corner. Very few days are left. So I thought it my duty to share with you some important tips regarding an important topic which is called narrative essay. As you know that it is almost a compulsory question because majority of the students don't even learn about descriptive essay. Inshallah, in my next video, I will be sharing tips with you about descriptive essay as well. But as far as those students who have planned to attempt narrative essay only in the exams, if they want to achieve their performance, if they want to move from B to A or A to A star, following tips must be listened and followed very accurately. First of all, let's look at the definition of narrative essay, that basically what it is. It is a piece of writing which tells a story in the form of connected sequence of events, and these events might be real and imaginary. It is totally up to you, and you can even make a combination of real and imaginary events. And the best thing is that you recount your personal experiences. I will be coming to that point of recounting personal experiences in detail. Let's first look at the marks that this question has. Previously, it had 30 marks and now it has only 25 marks. And luckily, 1 hour, that is 60 minutes time duration, has been allocated to attempt this question. So, those students who are appearing in 2024 May June exams, they should consider themselves lucky as they are getting quality time to attempt those only two questions and 2 hours. First question will be directed writing, and the second question will be either narrative or descriptive. So please don't leave the examination hall even 1 minute before the paper is finished. Although the Cambridge examiners over there don't allow you to leave immediately after the exam, but even then some students make this mistake of attempting the paper in hurry. Your handwriting should be up to the mark. Remember that it is not Islamiyat or Pakistan studies paper where handwriting is sometimes not even legible. Here you have quality time. Please improve your handwriting. Please proofread your paper if you want to achieve best grade. And the marks are 25. The division of marks is that 10 marks will be there for the content material that you will write, and remaining 15 marks, the weightage of style and accuracy is more than the content. So you have to pay more importance to style and accuracy. I will be discussing this part in too much detail. Please listen attentively. And the word limit has also been reduced. It is now only 350 to 450 words. No examiner is going to count your number of words, but the examiners will be so experienced that they will automatically understand if the story is below the word limit excessively or if it is crossing the word limit excessively. So please uh, follow the word limit which has been prescribed by the Cambridge examiners. You have to improve your presentation and abilities, writing abilities, in such a way that the examiner is impressed by the fact that after all you took 3 years efforts. So the efforts of 3 years should be implemented in your attempt. Now coming to the writing assessment objectives. You know that this is writing paper. The Cambridge examiners have set certain assessment objectives for writing and reading. In this paper, in this question, we will be looking at the assessment objectives of writing. What will uh, what will they examine you for? For example, the first thing is that how will you express what is felt, thought, and imagined? How have you expressed your ideas, your feelings, your thoughts, and your imagination? This is the first thing that will be assessed. Second writing assessment objective is that how well you have organized and structured your ideas in order to create a deliberate effect of your writing. Meaning, did you plan your story? Did you organize your stories? There is a very beautiful structure of narrative essay, which I'm going to share a few minutes later. And according to that structure, you have to plan your story, that how will you start, how will you end, how will you raise suspense and climax in your story. And the third writing assessment objective is that you have to use a range of vocabulary. Range of vocabulary means variety, not that the same words are consistently repeated. That will create a very negative impression. And the fourth most important thing is sentence structures. There are many students who come up with shocking remarks when they receive their results because they don't know the writing assessment objective. They think they have written a very good story, but they did not pay heed to these linguistic features. So the most important linguistic feature, more important than vocabulary, is sentence structure. That how do you write your sentences? Do you vary their length? Do you vary their types? So we will be looking at this point also in detail. And the last writing assessment objective, W4, has not been written because W4 is part of directed writing question. That's why it has not been mentioned here. And W5 is making accurate use of spellings, punctuation, and grammar. In our culture, as students have started using mobile phones, typing habit, there are many students whose English is not bad, but their spellings are so pathetic that they create a very awkward impression onto the examiner's mind. Remember that there is much difference between spoken English and written English, so your spelling should be accurate. It is not just correct, it is accurate. Similar is the case with grammatical abilities as well as punctuation. Now, detail of writing assessment objectives. WAO stands for writing assessment objective. The first thing, as I have already mentioned, is the style, and the examiners have allocated 15 marks for this style. Style consists of writing in role of the narrator. Role of the narrator means that you have read the topic which you are going to attempt in the paper. Now you have to decide which role you are going to adopt for yourself. Are you the narrator? Are you the character concerned? Are you a male character? Are you a female character? Are you an aged person? Are you a young boy or a girl? According to your role, according to the role that has been prescribed in the topic, you will assign role to yourself as you are the narrator. Then you have to take special attention of tone, how you are expressing these things. These points have also been mentioned in the directed writing question, and don't think that they will be ignored in the narrative writing. Narrative writing also you have to pay heed to your role and the tone that you will be adopting, whether you are talking and describing in a sarcastic tone, or is it sympathetic tone, or is it a facilitating tone in which you are trying to make the reader understand what you are saying. Keep in mind the purpose of the composition. You see, whether it is directed writing or is it narrative writing, purpose of the composition should be clear as to why you are writing. Was it meant to create a confusion, or was it meant to resolve a confusion? Why were you writing it? Were you writing it to entertain your audience or amuse your audience? So you have to read the question carefully, spend 4 to 5 minutes on these aspects of the question before starting the answer, and must think that who will read your narrative. Obviously, the audience is the examiner himself, and even if you are not presenting it in front of the audience, you have to keep in mind that you are attempting it in the Cambridge exam. You have spent 3 years, the teachers have put efforts upon you, parents' efforts have also been implied. So keep the audience in mind that examiner is going to read it very carefully. Next point is that narrative writing requires both a wide range of vocabulary, expressions, and a creative grasp over the content. You see that, as I have mentioned, the division 15 marks for style and 10 marks for content. So both the things have to be catered very carefully and in a sensitive manner. Wide range of vocabulary. Vocabulary, not difficult words that you are unable to spell. about which you are not sure of meaning, about which the context is not clear, but synonyms, especially of emotive vocabulary. What is emotive vocabulary? You should be able to memorize, or you should have prepared emotive vocabulary. For example, feelings of human beings, that they feel sad, they feel happy, they laugh, they shout, they are in an angry mood. These are the feelings of human beings, and these feelings are definitely going to come into your story in some way or the other. So vocabulary should be wide, and you should have worked, you should have done some homework on the preparation of this vocabulary other than the content. Most of the students just say that the paper is unseen. What are we supposed to prepare it? So this is the area where you have to put in efforts before the exam other than reading. As far as the content is concerned, that too should be appealing. And what is the appealing part of the content? I will be discussing in my next point. It says that if a student sprinkles flowery vocabulary only, but his plot has no backbone, his is a weak response. Plot means a series of events, the events which you are going to narrate. And if there is just shallow vocabulary, verbose expressions, and the story has no plot, then you never think of obtaining good grade. You have to maintain a balance between these two things. The requirement of a commendable narrative, meaning the praiseworthy narrative, good narrative, is the use of mature expressions at the appropriate occasion. You don't have to just, you can say, use expressions forcefully, but they should be appropriately adjusted in the context, and the ability to develop the reader's interest and sustain it. Once the reader starts reading your story, he is bound to read it till the end. He should be engaged in such a way by you. Otherwise, the story will not be awarded with a successful grade. Do not skip descriptive essay. There is a tip for the improvement of narrative essay. I don't advise you to attempt complete descriptive essay in your Cambridge exam if you are not well prepared for it, but at least 20% of the essence of descriptive essay, if you add in your narrative, your A star is guaranteed. Why? Because the examiner says that at some point narrative and descriptive writing converge, meaning they collaborate and they mix into each other. Given the fact that narrative writing also requires descriptive vocabulary, which places descriptive vocabulary is required? For example, when you are describing your feelings, the character's feelings, over there descriptive expressions will be used. If you are describing the place, the setting, the room, if you are describing the weather, even while telling a story, there will be three places at least where you will be describing place, describing person, or describing something. So at least 20% of the descriptive essay should be learned and prepared by you. And what is the way to learn that? Next video will have detail. Briefly, I can tell you that you should have good, strong adjectives to describe things. Now, the tip is that you should recount personal experiences. Repeatedly, I am saying that your plot should be good, your content should be good. So, what is the tip to improve your plot? That describe your personal experiences, narrate your personal experiences, because what happens with you is different from what happens to your friend. Because God has made everyone distinct. All individuals are distinct human beings. So there might be some similarity, but most probably your personal experiences will be different from those of your partners. So the tip is recount personal experience. Emphasis is placed on drilling into the students' minds that they are not to plagiarize plots in the exams. Please don't reproduce ideas and plots as they have been watched by you in some movie or in some book. Because you see, it is a very common saying कि नकल के लिए भी अकल की जरूरत है. So even if Shakespeare was blamed to have taken ideas from his predecessors, but he copied them. or he reused them with such intelligence that no one could find any closeness or any similarity. He did it so perfectly. So, human experiences can be recounted, but the examiners are well versed in understanding or in recognizing any kind of plagiarism in your writing. Original, even if simple content, will be appreciated by the examiner. Even if your plot is simple, but if it is original, the examiner will appreciate it. Memorizing passages or opening paragraphs beforehand, complete paragraphs, some of the students have memorized from certain samples or from certain sources like ChatGPT or some other resources, and if will it will do the students no good, as the examiner can recognize when a student is printed something verbatim on his paper. Verbatim means wholesale copying as it is. If you will reproduce the same paragraph in the same style, in the same manner onto your paper, this will create a very negative impression. Certain words, certain phrases, certain ideas can be picked, but individual touch must not be minimized. What are the qualities of a mature piece of writing? Number one, it should contain complex sentences in which connectives and participles are used. You see, connectors play a prominent role in every type of writing ability, whether it is summary writing, whether you are writing, attempting directed writing, any type of directed writing. So, the two things which you definitely have to prepare before your exams commence. Number one, emotive vocabulary for the improvement of narrative essay, and number two will be connectors, and you should be able to differentiate between simple sentence, compound sentence, and complex sentence. Complex sentence will be such which have more than one clause, which has more participles in it. You can check that in some other video or in some other book, that what is the difference between simple, compound, and complex sentence. At your level, you have to write all three types of sentences. Avoid and, but, and so as much as possible. Why? Otherwise, your composition would have a juvenile feeling to it. It will seem as if a student of grade 4 or 5 has written your essay, because these are boring and repetitive words. Instead, you have to use their better synonyms. One of the most direly needed techniques is the ability to vary sentence structure. A simple way to do is to switch the orders of main, subordinate, and embedded subordinate clauses. Now, some of the students who are not very good at grammar might not understand this point, but for their understanding or to clarify, what I want to say is, you see that you can change the gear of the sentence, not necessarily that you start it from A and it ends with Z. You can even start your sentence with Z and end with A. You can pick the middle clause, and you can start your sentence from the middle clause and then bring the related clauses afterwards. So this is the important thing that you have to improve, that is sentence structure and how you should vary them. Remember, spelling mistakes will be akin to little hindrances on an otherwise clear path to a successful narrative piece. If you think that you are moving very smoothly on a successful path of attempting narrative essay, but at the same time, if you are making spelling mistakes, so you must realize that you are creating lots of hurdles for your reader, for your examiner, and they will not enjoy your composition at all. The look, cover, write, check method can be employed to learn befuddling spellings. Befuddling means confusing. That you look at the word, then you cover it, and then you write that word using your own memory, and then you check whether you have written the correct spellings or not. This is the method to improve your confusing spellings. Make a list of the words which you have been misspelling in your previous papers, in your class assignments. Take out those words and make a list, so that in your exam, especially there and there, simple words sometimes the students are misspelling. Receive and achieve, the students misspell these words, simple words. So make a list before the exam. This is the third thing that you have to do. Tips of narrative continuing. Three types of parentheses, meaning punctuation marks, which you will be using. Number one, commas, dashes, and brackets. Even semicolon can be used. Not just that you are using comma. You have to use commas, even dashes, and even brackets. Now, some students who have not practiced these things, they might be saying, okay, what problems I am creating for them. But the thing is better that dash is a punctuation mark that you use in your Islamiyat and Pakistan studies paper. It is used for explanation. Brackets is used for further elaboration of a thing. Just as I have written three types of parentheses, and in the brackets I have explained what are those three types of parentheses. This is the purpose of bracket. And comma is used, as you can see, that it is used after when we are describing a list of certain things, and it can even be used after the dependent clause, just as it has been written after recommended. Ambitious vocabulary is to be used. Ambitious vocabulary means everyone wants to be different. You all want to become different. You all want to join different fields. Everyone doesn't want to become a teacher or a doctor. You have ambitious plans. Similar is the case with vocabulary. Don't ever reproduce learnt vocabulary in the exam. Sometimes the teachers have provided lists of vocabulary and all the class has learnt the same synonyms. The examiner wants to have variety. For example, the synonym of sad, everyone is writing gloomy. You should be coming up with different synonyms. For example, you can say despondent, you can say doleful, you can start with alliterated synonyms, just as I have mentioned the two words, both of them are starting with D. This will create a very positive impression because the examiner would know that you are well versed in figures of speech, your spellings are accurate, and you are working upon ambitious vocabulary. Punctuation marks are to be used consciously. Don't apply them unconsciously. However, they must be used at the appropriate place. Don't experiment with a new word until and unless you are familiar with its meaning, with its spelling, and with its form, as well as context. Stick consistently to one tense. Many students say, Miss, we can't stick to one tense. Sometimes we have to talk about things which are currently taking place. So always I advise them that in case of switch of tenses, new paragraph is to be started. Even if you are mentioning dialogue, in my next slide, you will see that where do you have to use past tense and present tense when you are writing dialogue, direct speech, and where will you differentiate it from the indirect speech. The most serious error is the verb error. For example, if you don't know even the forms of word, for example, some of the students apply wrong form for the word red, read, read, and they apply ed with that. Such stupid mistake. Or sometimes you don't know the correct form of a word. So don't make that mistake. It is one of the most serious mistake. For convenience sake, keep the main verb close to the main subject. For example, you always know that they played. But if they say that they have been playing or played or playing, you will be confused. So this is the tip, but at your level, you have to vary the sentence structure. So you can't keep the verb close to the main subject. You have to experiment, and for that experimentation, rehearsals are suggested beforehand. Dialogues are to be written in the indirect speech by using inverted commas. Where will you use dialogues? Where you are describing the character's feelings. Contractions can be used, for example, can't, shan't, won't. Where will they be used? When you are writing dialogues. Otherwise, in the indirect speech, don't use contractions. Always start the dialogue with a new line. Many students ask this question even during the invigilation, during the exam. Don't ask anything from the invigilator. Things must be clarified from your teachers during the 3 years practice. Avoid colloquial and archaic expressions. Colloquial expressions are those which you are using while talking. Hello, hi, buddy. Archaic expressions are those which have been outdated. For example, once upon a time, or some archaic expressions like cliches. They are to be avoided in your narrative essay if you want to achieve good grade. To create an effect of imagery, descriptive vocabulary can be used. When you want to create an image onto the reader's mind, for example, the room that you are describing, or the smell of the food, or for example, when you are narrating an incident that took place during a wedding. So you can describe briefly the scene of the wedding, but the main focus will be on telling the events. This is how you have to add 20% of descriptive essay into your narrative essay. This is the, you can say, pattern which I have made for your understanding that how you are going to do um, paragraphing in your narrative essay. The first paragraph, you can say, will be the beginning, when you will introduce things, when you will introduce the setting, when you will introduce the characters, when you will introduce the situation. And in the second paragraph, you will describe, you will narrate rising action, meaning the things will start having trouble, situations will start becoming troublesome. And the third paragraph will be climax. Things will, the problems will reach at their peak, meaning some quarrel will be arisen. God forbid, some disastrous situation takes place. And then in the fourth paragraph, the situations will start resolving. They will falling action. This paragraph is called. And the last paragraph will be conclusion. And for your interest, let me tell you that Shakespeare has been using this pattern even in his plays of 5 acts. Majority of his plays, rather all of his plays had 5 acts, and the same pattern was followed over there. So with brief understanding, with 450 words, you can say you have to write this pattern of narrative essay. And I have given you a recap that first of all, series of events or plot is more important, content is important. You have to describe or you have to narrate characters, but there must not be too many characters in your story, because it is not a novel, it is a short story. You have to follow the time limit as well as word limit. If you started writing a very lengthy short story, your time of directed writing will be consumed, which is more technical. So don't start writing narrative essay in an unnecessarily long and detailed way. Vocabulary should be ambitious. 5 paragraphs. If you write 6 or 7, there is no penalty. But when you write more, you make more mistakes and you plan less, and you don't save time for proofreading. These are the mistakes of self penalty which you apply to your own self. So don't write very lengthy. Beginning is the first paragraph, rising action is the second paragraph, climax is the third paragraph, falling action is the fourth paragraph, and resolution is the conclusion. Don't end your story abruptly. Don't write, my mother woke me up from a dream. It was all a dream. My dreams were shattered. Don't write cliches either, neither at the opening nor at the closing, because this will create a very bad impression of your creative abilities. So this is all from my side on the question of narrative essay. After reading and understanding these tips and guidance, please read your own attempted stories in your own exams throughout O3 at least in the final year, and try to understand your own mistakes. What were the mistakes that you yourself committed, so that you are making an analysis of your weaknesses and strengths. Best of luck for your exams coming very soon with the tips of descriptive essay. Allah Hafiz.